Welcome to this Grandma's Life podcast. I'm your host, theciaellis. Get ready to laugh, learn, and grow with me as we explore growing old in an ever changing world. One of the great things about growing old is people judging us when you sometimes say outrageous things. I'm getting older and I've had a fascinating life. I also have opinions. You may not agree with them, and I may not care. Even now, I am passionate about many things. I love to learn. I love quotes. I love my animals on the farm, and I care about my country. Join me as we explore loving life even as we age. Today is October 2nd, 2024, and this is episode 65. And it's called Where Can I Get Truthful Information? But first, we're going to do some farm happenings. Okay, I'm going to be perfectly honest. It's been a while since I've done a podcast because life has been full and mainly full of softball. There's been some other happenings too. If you had seen one of my recent videos on Grandma's Homestead, you saw where we rearranged the rabbit system a little bit. I need to finish it, but I've taken some other cages that I have used in the past for poultry when I'm taking them to the processor, and I didn't need them so much anymore because I'm not taking as many birds to the processor as I was. So I'm now using them for the rabbits, and I'm also have set them up in an old scaffolding system that we had used even to use to build the barn. So it's working out. I just need to finish it up. Um, Tom's got a brother-in-law. Well, okay, his sister and brother-in-law live in Wisconsin, and they were moving a son to Houston as they passed through. Had an agreement to come pick up to get the we had a 64 Chevy pickup that's been sitting in the field for years and years, and I'm really glad to see some of the stuff go because we got a lot of stuff in our field that's been sitting there for years and years, and I was really glad to see my brother-in-law get that and take it home with him, and that was wonderful. And I actually got to spend most of a day with Tom's sister and brother-in-law, and get to visit with them and get to know them a little bit because they live way far away, and so we don't get to see them as often as we like. There was a chili benefit in our community that really had nothing to do with me, but it touched me in a way that was I as someone who has moved around a lot when I was younger. I never felt too much as a part of a community, and in some of the communities I was in, I was not welcome because I was an outsider. And I will say that this town has fully accepted me, and I love all of them dearly. They just and but there's not just me. There's been our town is small enough that we just have a volunteer fire department, and one of the firemen has come down with some cancer, and it's not looking good for him. But they had a chili benefit for him, and they raised a lot of money for him. And the people that had done the raising worked so hard for this man, and we had the chili benefit. We had a silent auction. I say I just went and ate chili and looked at all the stuff that they had to sell. But they, even though as far away as almost an hour away were some of the firefighters in other towns that came to represent the uh the, this chili benefit to help this fireman help cover some of the costs of his cancer treatments that he's having to go through. And I was just really touched by how much people care in this community, how they take care of their own, and how big an event it was for such a small town. It was, and we missed. Apparently, there was a parade. I didn't know there was going to be a parade there, but they actually had a parade of all the fire trucks in our town and several nearby towns, including the one that was nearly an hour away. So it was cool. It touched me. It really did. And actually, it was in the school cafeterias where we had it, and it was so crowded. I started getting a little claustrophobic and decided to go stand outside for a while because there were so many people who cared and showing their love for them. Uh, I'm glad softball season is over in a few ways. I think if they had, we were doing 4 or sometimes even 5 games a week. And I don't just attend them, I video them and I try to do all that stuff too. But after a while, you just wear down. And there was one man in that comes to all the he comes to a lot of the away games too. And he's difficult for me to handle. He's not a coach, but he coaches loudly all the way through the games and telling the players what to do and telling people what to do and stuff. And if he disagrees with a call, he's very vocal with disagreeing with the call. And he was doing that one to actually several people were pretty. I mean, at first we're all kind of going, she dropped the ball. Our player is safe, and they did reverse the call. And so, you know, we got the call we wanted. Let's reverse, let's get on with our lives. But a few of the parents just kept on going and going and going. And in particular, this one man. And so the refs came over and said, hey, we've got this. We got it. And some of them kept going, kept jawing and kept jawing. And the coach came over and was very kind. He goes, hey, guys, I've been called out. We've got to be calm. We got to keep doing it. And fewer parents were doing it, but this one man and at least one other just kept going and going and going. So I'm kind of getting a little upset. I'm tired. It's hot. It was hot that day. It'd been like the 3rd game of the week or 4th. I can't remember which. I think it was the 4th. And so I turned around at one point in my chair and said, hey, guys, we've been told to calm down. Let's do that. And this one man just kept going and kept going. And I turned around again and said, really, we've got to be calm. Let's not do this. And he wouldn't shut up about how much he could do a better job. And I kind of snapped. I'm not very nice sometimes, but I turned around to him. I said, you mess up this game and I will come after you personally. And he kept jawing. I said, don't mess up my granddaughter's game. And he kept jawing. And the only thing I could do after that was just stare him down. He kept jawing and I kept staring him. And that, I guess because words are his weapon and me just staring him down just really infuriated him. And he decided, I'm going to leave. Well, the problem with that is his mom is there and she's very much older. I think she's in her 80s. And I really like this woman. I really I just really like her and admire her. And she knows what her son is. She knows how he is. But by confronting her son, I now had made an enemy of her. And it broke my heart. And I was between being exhausted from all the games and going after this man. I have to admit, I was an emotional wreck the whole weekend. And plus a few other things. Kenzie's a senior this year. We were getting ready for homecoming where she was, there's a lot going on. And so me getting into an altercation with this man, I'm not that type of person. I will stand up for what I think is right, but I don't go looking for trouble in general. And so when I do cause trouble, it kind of breaks my heart. I had 11 more ducklings hatched, and so far as I can tell, I still have ducklings. They're several. They're a couple weeks old now, and I've already got them out into a chicken tractor, and so far so good. And I'm really grateful because I've had so much aerial predators that I'm down to 2 ducks. Was down. Because I think I started this season with 9 ducks altogether. I think 2 or 3 of them were drakes, but before the summer was over, well, even just a couple weeks ago, I had 1 drake and 2 ducks, and I got eggs picked up to put in the incubator in time before my last drake was killed. So now I've got 2, and the last 2 ducks have survived, yeah, even after all that. So I've got the 2 ducks, the adult ducks, that are laying me 1 or 2 eggs a day total. And now I've got 11 ducklings that I'm hoping to keep alive and have another batch to go with for this next season. My grandson, Kenzie's older brother, came and visited. It was nice to get to see him. We don't get to see him very much at all. And it was nice to visit with him and get to know him a little bit more because he's been going through stuff and I wanted to be there for him. And the fact that he came by made me feel pretty good. And of course we had the second assassination attempt on Trump, and that kind of got us kind of thinking about stuff. But that's beside the point, I guess. Probably shouldn't put that in the notes because it's not necessarily a farm thing. I did. I'll tell you what was also was adding to me being an emotional wreck was the login woes. Google had changed something to where you had to log in. Well, and most of the accounts I've got 3 or 4 YouTube channels and stuff, and most of them I always try to keep them under one email account. They won't let you sometimes, and I had an email account for one of them, and for Kinsey Lackey Sports, and it wouldn't let me log in, and it didn't like the login I had, and I was just beside myself trying to take care of it. And that same day that I was trying to get into that account, a pig hut had gotten uh, damaged where it needed some work, but I couldn't do it by myself, and I had to wait for Tom to get home. And I don't know, there was just stuff going on, and I was just kind of emotional wreck that whole weekend. But I mean, everything worked out. I finally got logged in where I can work into Kinsey's account again, and hopefully when they change things, I'll have something documented where I can get in without as much trouble as I had. After the ducklings were first hatched, I had them in a brooder in the barn, and I knew better. I had noticed that one of my sows was getting, well, she's my only sow. That's not true. I noticed that one of my pigs was getting too close to the fence, and I thought, I need to check this. And I told Tom, I said, something's wrong. We need to check the fence. And then obviously we got busy with all kinds of other stuff. And next thing we know, the next morning I had everybody, all 3 of those girls out roaming around. Well, the one sow that is smart, and she knows where to go in the barn, and she got into the barn and ate the dog food, dumped over the water, busted open my rabbit feed bin, and when I got out there, I had noticed that in my brooder, I have the brooder is just a big plastic tub, and line, where the bottom of it has wood shavings, and then I have a homemade screen, just it's hardware cloth in a frame that I had built, and we put the heat lamp on top of that screen, so it's safe, unless a pig gets in there and dumps everything. He dumped the screen off, and uh, I got out there, and the screen was on the floor, and the lamp was in the brooder with the ducks, and apparently it hadn't been very long at all because there was not even any singeing on the wood chips or the wood shavings, and no ducklings were injured. But that could have been a really bad issue, but I was grateful that the ducklings were spared. We got the pigs back in, got the electricity working on the fence again, and everything's back to normal there. Since I've last talked to you, Kinsey had her 18th birthday. I can't believe this. I mean, she's been a huge part of our lives since day one, basically. And we actually got custody of her when she was 11 years old, and now she's 18. And that's just, whew, that's probably adding to my emotional stuff too. Like I said, there's so much softball. The conference tournament, the girls did really good though. It was a wonderful thing. Like I said, this is Kinsey's senior year. She had some friends 2 or 3 years ago, and they all played softball. They did things together and stuff. But since it was a little bitty podunk school, a few of the players, a couple of the players moved on to other schools. They went into Claremore. Like Kinsey's very best friend started going to Claremore school so that she could play soccer, because our school doesn't have soccer. One of the other girls, I think she was homeschooled for a long time, and she came back, and she is just a star pitcher. And anybody knows anything about softball or baseball, if you don't have a pitcher, you don't have much of a team, no matter what the talent is for the rest of the team. So it really worked out well. Our senior year, so these girls came back and became part of our team, and it worked out well. They clinched the conference championship, and then the districts. But the district tournament was, it was not. They should have done something differently. It was only 3 teams, and it was a double elimination tournament, and it was all in one day. The problem was, is okay, our girls won the very first game. So they technically should have gotten a break. And so that they could get something to eat or something like that. And they were not. They immediately had to play the next team. And then they lost that because they had not eaten and they hadn't had a break. And they were they were grooming the field between games. So they lost the second game. And they probably would have lost it anyway, but it's hard to say because it was a pretty good team. And then instead of getting a break again, they had to groom the field again and then play the original team that they had beaten early on. So after 7.5 hours of being in the sun and stuff, it was just a lot. The girls were exhausted. They were tired. Our poor pitcher, she at one point said she couldn't even feel her arm anymore. And my husband had asked the coach a couple of days later at the football game, what was the deal with that? He said it came from the softball association. He had nothing to do with it. And he said, I did forget to feed the girls. That was my fault, And so I like this coach. He's not a softball coach. He's a basketball coach, but he has stepped up for our school and honestly has done an excellent job. Last year he was assistant coach and he worked his tail off to learn the rules and to be a good coach. And this year he's a head coach and he's training a new assistant coach. And I don't know, I've just been very grateful for him. I'm real pleased with how well he stepped up and how honest he is with you. If he messes up, he tells you he messed up, and he's put up with me a couple of times. And when Kinsey gets hurt, I'm out there trying to figure out what's going on. So he's really put up with me really good. So the girls did not win the district tournament. They won their first game and they lost the next two, and it was done for them. And they never got a break, and they were so exhausted. And the very next day was homecoming, and Kinsey we had to find a dress for her. We got a dress, and it was through that glass slipper. I've told you about that clothing ministry in the past, where you get to choose from 2,300 dresses and you get to borrow it. You check it out like a library book. And she found a beautiful dress. Oh my gosh, guys, she is so beautiful. And I'm getting choked up thinking about it, but she's really turned into a beautiful young woman. And she represented softball. And I don't remember much how the court goes, but the guy that she walked with was represented baseball, even though he was wearing a football uniform because homecoming was on the football game night. And so that they got that done. I've got that got it videoed, except I did it on my phone and I'm having some technical difficulties figuring out how to get footage from my phone to my computer. So that's that. It's been dry. Earlier this year, we talked about how much rain we were getting. Rain all the time. Well, for a full month now, we've gotten 0.4 inches of rain, and it is dry here. And I'm looking forward to some more rain, that's for sure. All right, that's all for farm happenings, what I'm listening to. And this has been a good listen. I'm on my second listening for. It's called Think This, Not That by Dr. Josh Axe. We all have our own things that go in our head constantly, and we have a tendency to get hung up on at least one particular negative thing about ourselves. And so he's telling you how to retrain yourself to think what you need to think about so that you can overcome what is holding you back. And like I said, this is an audiobook and I've been listening to it. It's the second time, and it's called Think This, Not That by Dr. Josh Axe. Somehow I don't know, some of my fiction books, I go, what? Okay. But this one's been good too. This one's called People's Republic by Kurt Schlichter. And in the beginning of it, he talks about how when he had written this book, he had no idea how much of it was going to come true. And this is a dystopian novel thing, and it is true. He's talking about the blue states and the red states, and what the blue states do and what it's done to their economy. And after they split up, there's the country is split up. Mainly the flyover states are red, and the east, most of the East Coast, not all of it, I can't remember what it is. Northeast is blue. Seemed like the Southeast, Florida and Georgia and all them, they were red. But and then of course all of the West Coast was blue, and he's talking about trying to get people who are stuck on the blue side, get them smuggled out, because they've actually put up perimeters where you can't just go back and forth and travel freely. And so I'm getting started in that one. That was called People's Republic, and that was by Kurt Schlichter. What I'm actually reading is, I'm still working on How to Develop a Powerful Prayer Life by Dr. Gregory Frizzell, Frizzell. So I think it's Frizzell or Frizzle. I don't know. I think it's Frizzell. And so I've been trying to study my way through it. It's gonna be, I mean, it's a little book, but I'm studying it, so it's taking a while to get through it. And my novel is called Sierra Triumph by Dana Fuller Ross, and it's a Western. Actually, it's been kind of interesting too, because if you think about, a lot of times when you talk about Westerns or something, I think this was in the 1890s, what this book is based on. So it's focusing a lot on the oil industry and women's suffrage, where they're trying to get the right to vote. Because if you think, I think then women didn't get the right to vote until like 1920. So there's a couple of things historical about it that I have found interesting. So that was pretty good. And I have to admit, it's kind of interesting because this one, these men are going, oh, we don't need have no crazy women voting. But she would ask him, well, and some of the women are going, well, my husband is sick, or my husband is dead. Who's representing me? And how can I get my vote in and stuff? And where can I get my rights taken care of? Men are deciding what I get to do and what I don't get to do. And um and it talks about how even some of the women, in their quest to be able to vote, their husbands, not all of them, but this is in particular, some of them were dealing with alcoholic husbands who beat the crap out of them. And as soon as they even mention something about voting, their husband is beating them up in a drunken rage. Well, is that what you want representing you when as voting for your country? And obviously, if you know anything about my background, you know what my answer to that is. So that's been an interesting read so far too, even though it's kind of an interesting, you just never know what I'm going to be reading. All right, 22 minutes into it. Let's get into my main subject. Oh, guys, I'm starting to where I am spending time dwelling on things and deciding what I want to say about something. And a lot of what I'm saying seems to be kind of controversial, but you know what? I think we're in a controversial age right now. And a lot of people who want to speak freely and stuff are being squelched. Well, me being a nobody, maybe somewhere down the road, some people are going to start hearing some of the things I'm saying and can take it to heart. But right now, I'm a nobody, and I can pretty much say what I want to say and not have to worry about the consequences of it. But every time I do one of these podcasts, I realize that somewhere down the road, I may have to answer for what I've said here. So I try really hard to be as clear as I can and not just pop off with what I want to say without thinking it through, and whatever will be not just consequential for myself, but for others too. So like I said, where can I get truthful information? I seldom watch the news on television. Years ago, it just started making me so crazy. Because, like, okay, often on the local news, the reporters and anchors would tell you about something that has happened that day, but usually left out a lot of information. And I would come away very frustrated. Like, so many details are just glossed over or completely left out. So, as an example, and this is just a fictional example, the recreation center in the town of Claremore blew up this morning, killing 4 people and injuring 32. The water from the swimming pool was reported to have shot over 50 feet in the air before raining down in the weight room, damaging the stereo system. Back to you. And then you go, what? What? Okay, it blew up and it ruined the stereo system? And I could find myself yelling at the television, like, why did it blow up? What happened? Was there a bomb? Did the water heater malfunction? Was it a terrorist attack? Not likely, not in the town of Claremore, but you never know. And what the heck? At least tell us that there's no more for information at this time, and we'll have a full report later. But frequently there's not. They just tell you that, and something else comes along, and it gets in place of this major thing that happened, the day before. So well, I needed to stay married. So I decided to quit watching the news so that there would be some peace in the family. Because I can get irate, when if you got half of you yelling at the television, the other one just wants to sit there and be calm. It's not a good mix. So I had to quit watching the television. And this is another thing that bothers me too. I'd find myself, it seemed like the reporters that were doing these stories would look for the least intelligent witness with as few teeth as possible so they can say on television, I done seen it. As a fellow Okie, I find that highly insulting. There are plenty of intelligent, educated native Oklahomans to interview. I promise. So, yeah, that's another thing. In cable news, it's, a whole different animal right now. Everything is about Trump. If the channel is left-leaning, flat out lies are being told with no repercussions at all for the lies they're telling. There is no migrant crisis. They're not eating the cats. They're not illegal immigrants. They are undocumented citizens. And I will cover that in a future podcast because there's a reason that they're wanting to call it undocumented citizens. And who really is the threat to democracy? Do you even know what democracy is? They're telling you crime is down. Really? And there's a reason for that too. They changed the rules, changed the way they report crime to the FBI. So many of the crimes that are being committed are not even reported to the FBI. So therefore the FBI is not taking that data that's not being given to them and to make their reports on how the crime is. So the crime has actually gone up. It's just not getting reported and not being made into statistics. Fox News isn't any better, okay? It's all about how wonderful Trump is without any mention of what's going on in the rest of the world. I sat there for an hour and a half the other day, and there was not one mention of the battles happening between Iran and Israel and other countries in the area, including the stunning reports of the pagers and radios detonating in the hands of Hezbollah militants. No mention of the flooding and damage in any of the states from the most recent hurricane. It's all about Trump and how wonderful he is. And that's frustrating too. None of the channels are telling us about the unrest in the rest of the world. Do you even know about the civil war in Sudan that has killed as many as 150,000 people? Do you know about the Uyghur slaves in Western China? How much more is happening that the news channels are not even talking about? So where can you get accurate, unbiased news? Certainly not Facebook or most any other social media platforms. The social media platforms that are not Facebook claim to be fair and balanced are just usually echo chambers for the right, unless there are other ones that they're just unlawful and weird and stuff. I guess maybe I don't know, but they're echo chambers for what you feel and not necessarily accurate. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. If you're Republican, you have your own source of information that is not necessarily unbiased. If you're Democrat, the gaslighting and lies are sadly rampant. In other words, if you care enough to want accurate information, you have to do your own research. And Google is not your friend here. This I find sad because I Google way too much. I love to look things up. I love to learn, and I'm always looking things up. But if you want to know something in the news or political or non-political, anything that cultural or anything like that, Google's not the place to go. So where do you get your information so you can have accurate information? And honestly, the only way I have found to get what I believe to be accurate political information is to seek out podcasts. And I love to listen to podcasts. I listen to them all the time. Podcasters certainly have their own agenda, but are independent sources of information. It takes time, energy, and homework to find the podcast that you feel you can trust, regardless of whether you're a Republican or Democrat. And why should you care? This is an unprecedented time in history. Truly, no other time in our history of our nation has a residing president been pushed out without taking the proper channels, and a new presidential candidate gain, that didn't get one vote in the primaries to earn her place in the presidential campaign. Love or hate Trump, the lawfare the man has been fighting has been unprecedented. Not to mention the attempts on his life. And this reminds me of what went on in Mexico during their 2024 election. Do you know that up to 60 politicians that were assassinated during their campaigns for office? 60 people who were in the process of running for office or about to run for office were assassinated. And mostly, I think they said they were by drug cartels. Can you imagine in one country 60 different people being executed, assassinated because they want to run for office and try to make their country a better place? That's kind of, I mean, not 60 with there's only one man with a huge target on his back right now, but it's still kind of in that same direction. So when you add in wars or the chance of wars in Russia, Ukraine, China and the Middle East as a whole, that could directly lead us into World War II. And I had forgotten to put in there North Korea, Taiwan, all these other things. When the military went woke, we're now putting the safety of our country in the hands of a DEI-run military branches. There are very good military personnel still available, but many good ones were ousted when they did not want to get the vaccination for COVID. There's just so much going on, and we need to have good information. So I'm not trying to be morbid or frighten you. I will strongly encourage you to actively look for accurate information in the news. This will mean that you will hear news that you did not want to hear or want to believe. That's tough. When you get the news, evaluate the source of the information and the message behind it that they are trying to relay. Ask why. Always ask why. If you are told something in the news, ask why that happened. What is behind it? What's going on there? And then you know what? Draw your own conclusions. Think for yourself and get on with your life. Don't let it shut you down. Go back to living and preparing if needed, but live. I'm sure I left out several things in this podcast that you can think of and can disagree with me on. I just wanted to cite examples of some current events. You can take them how you want them. All I want you to do is step back and evaluate the information that you're receiving. If you don't trust your news source, find a different one. My husband, who watches a lot of television, frequently goes between Fox, CNN, and MSNBC just to see the differences in what they're reporting. Not a bad exercise to try. It'll probably really irritate you one way or another. I feel like you are being lied to do your own fact checking. Wait, if you feel like you are being lied to, do your own fact checking. Since when did we as Americans stop thinking for ourselves? And why should we care? Guys, we're on the brink of losing our freedoms, and that is made clear by what happened to us during the COVID pandemic. I said pandemic, I believe it was for a variety of reasons, but there were lockdowns and the boxes on the mask said they would not keep you from getting the virus, but you were expected to wear the mask in public. And there were so many things with the COVID stuff, shutting businesses down, and just for a mortality rate that's high among morbidly obese, the elderly, and other people, and I believe they all have a right to live. Don't get me wrong, but being told that if you go out in public, you were going to kill grandma was wrong. And this is America, people, and we have got to start making sure we're getting the proper information. We've got to make sure that we have what we need to honestly regain our freedoms, regain our rights as American citizens, not illegal documents, not illegal citizens, not aliens, not people who want to take away our freedoms and get us to quit eating meat. I don't know. There's so much to go into there. This is America, guys, and we need to start acting like freedom loving Americans. So, my question of the day is, where do you get your information? And do you trust it? Send me an email at theciaellis@gmail.com. And I hope this wasn't too rough on you. I really do. Okay. Fold card. I love my fold card. In fact, apparently I wore mine out and I had to ask for a new one before it expired because it wasn't working properly. It is a prepaid debit card that that you fund, and as you use it, they've even got set up now where you can pay your bills and stuff with it. And so, but I set aside I have a budget of what I put onto my fold card every payday, and that's what's used to buy fuel between paydays and feed for the animals and something, like, oh, I forgot this at the grocery store, here, take this card and go pick it up and stuff. So that's what I use it for. And every time you use it, you get what they call satoshis or sats, and that adds up and gets you, and so that you are actually starting to have Bitcoin without having to invest any more money at all. And over the time, mine has built up, and I've been real pleased with it. Even on some of the dips, we've had some pretty good dips. Uh, I'm still ahead from when I first started going with the fold card. So if you want an alternative way to have money and invest, Bitcoin is a good one, and fold card is a good way to do it. If you look down in the notes below, you can see my link for the fold card, and if you use it and sign up, I will get a little bit of a reward for it, and it won't cost you any reward. You know what I'm saying? But I will get a little bit, but it won't cost you anything more. Using the debit card won't cost you any more either. So it's a good thing, and I would encourage you to do it. Look for my link below. Um, I have Grandma's Homestead.farm and Grandma's Homestead YouTube channel. That's my main YouTube channel. Farm Animal Life YouTube channel, Kinsey Likey Sports YouTube channel. I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I've got his Twitter. And okay, I finally got off MeWe. I was posting stuff on MeWe. It was another social platform, and it looks like it pretty much died. So I need to take that off. And it's not Twitter. It hasn't been Twitter for a long time. It's X. So I need to change that too. And I'm also on Rumble. I did recently start a Grandma's Homestead Facebook page, and so you can look for me on there. But that's about everything. Um, I would ask that you share this podcast for other people who might need to have some information about what's going on, and give me a review. I would prefer a 5-star review, but whatever review you give me will surely help me to be found. All right, guys. I hope I didn't aggravate you too hard. I hope I did get you to thinking and start thinking like Americans so that you can start thinking for yourselves and do what you can to save our country. God bless, guys. I'll see you next time.